ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Divine League. We're coming at you with a great matchup between two teams sitting at 1-0, HoH Gaming and Striking Vipers. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by Goferino. Goferino, it's been a long, Risen-less couple of months, but we are back, my man.
I mean, there's definitely been Risen in between then. It's just been scattered here and there. It hasn't been Risen with us together, and I'm
Exactly
by Risen. So we definitely have differing opinions on the definition of Risen, so to speak. Either way, though, it is the second week of the Risen Divine League here. Definitely one of the highest honors in the Risen category, in the Risen catalog, I should say. It's a category in that catalog. Sometimes words are hard, but let's forget that because we are getting into pick and ban here. HoH will be taking the blue side in this game number 1 with Striking Vipers on the red side.
Yeah, and we're going to get right into this one as it's going to be Viego hovered onto and banned away by HoH right off the board. Got to believe that that's going to be directed towards one hand over on the side of Striking Vipers. Definitely a really adept jungler, and the Cho'Gath is going to be the one trick for the HoH side's top laner. He's got like 900 games on that one or something. Certainly not surprised to see that one taken off the board.
Yeah, that's kind of almost 100 times the amount of ranked keeps I've played this season. And we're probably going to be seeing a lot of very trick bans from this side of Striking Vipers because HoH who are very adept, but very adept at very specific champions. They aren't, of course, but with that Cho'Gath, with that Icon, a lot of people might be scratching their heads and most of as champion for
Yeah, Camille Shaden's #1 most played, Ivern Tykeg's #1 most played, just really focusing towards the comfort picks of these guys. These are the picks that they trust to get them up into their high ranks in solo queue, and so they are going to be taken away with that knowledge coming on in here. Tristana going to be the last ban from the side of HoH to make sure that they secure themselves a little bit of a favorable top lane matchup. And there goes Echo, which is Benjamex's #1 most played as well. So just trying to get HoH off of their comfort zone here on the side of Striking Vipers. We'll see what they end up locking in. The most played left here is going to be Nautilus from the side of Online. Might see if they're willing to first pick that one, or if they feel like something's a little bit more blindable in the current meta.
Yeah, of course, with these very player-specific bans, it does mean some power picks. Like, say a Shin Zhao to fall through here, Gordo. We know Shin Zhao is very prominent in the meta right now. He's able to have that really obnoxious early game when it comes to those
Goferino, the Trundle has joined the ranks of the set in the form of that triple flex, can be taken into all sorts of different positions, and is a plenty good jungler up against the Xin Zhao there, has that kind of dueling power and that kind of high health jungle clear that you want facing off against that really powerful early dueling that Xin Zhao brings to the table. And that's going to be a blind Vayne now locked in for the side of HoH. Does kind of preemptively counter something like the Zig spot that we've seen a lot of lately, but oh boy, does this have plenty of matchups that Striking Vipers could take into it. We'll see what their pick of the litter is going to be here, and if they want to take a support along with it, it is going to be the Lulu locked in here for the side of HoH.
I do know that Lulu mid with Shin Zhao was a strong combo for a few patches, and it definitely still is, but that's not really enough if you're able to just hard engage on this bot lane. Or if you do want to, you can go for a more non-interactable approach and just go for the, well, we're gonna kind of outrange you sort of feel on the bot lane. Like, say, a Caitlyn Morgana. Or if you want to, you could also pick, like, a Varus for that poke. Now,
So we are getting word here that Renekton pick is actually a Ziggs, and that means I presume that the Ziggs ban is actually Renekton. Don't know if it transfers quite that far. We'll get to find out here in the chat, but important to note, Striking Vipers have taken the Ziggs now. Gotta believe that that one's going to be going into the bot lane up against this Vayne. Could potentially be flexed over towards mid lane. Galio going to be hitting the ban list for the side of HoH. That's one that Mitch does favor quite a bit. It's not surprised to see that one taken away either. It means it won't be there to support this presumably Ziggs bottom lane for the side of Striking Vipers.
and there's the good old pro red band there. Hopefully that gets sorted out and we're told what it is soon. But if it is the Ziggs bot lane, it does kind of just fit into the mantra of, well, we can just outrange the Vayne here because the Vayne can't really do too much in terms of matching a wave clear. In fact, she could really. And Ziggs, he's kind of known for having the strongest wave clear in the game, or one of the strongest wave clears in the game. You can argue Ziggs, maybe yada yada yada. Either way, though, we'll be outranging that Vayne Lulu and being able to poke them out very hard in these games. And Striking Vipers being able to use that to
Yeah, and Striking Vipers have not put anything in regards to that ban in their chat here. Oh, that's their, I believe that's their ban penalty. I believe they were issued one as a result of Shaden being included in this game. So that might actually be an intentional misban there for the side of Striking Vipers. And now Anivia going to be underway as well. Victor going to be the lock-in for the side of SFT's mid lane. Now, some counter pick opportunities for the side of HoH. They already have a strong counter in the bottom lane. They can follow that up here. Strong counter in mid lane. They're going to blind the Gwen for top, although actually that's very likely to be going up against the set.
Don't hold me to that. Don't bring it to a court as like certified evidence. If there happens to be some sort of lawsuit or criminal case involving this game, I sure hope not. Jury duty kind of sucks.
I'll take the stand to defend you any day, Gopher Eno, but Corky gonna be the lock-in here for the side of HoH nonetheless, and now the Graves being locked. That's going to be Graves in the jungle here, so that probably means it's going to be Trundle or Set at support, and the other one up in the top lane. So a little bit of that support flexibility we talked about with those first two lock-ins coming in clutch here in the final pick of the draft. Striking Vipers is going to be running one of these bruisers in their bot lane to back on up that Ziggs.
Yep, and I'm kind of curious to see which one it is, because the Trundle support is usually like a very direct counter pick in the bot lane. It doesn't offer a ton, quote unquote, as a support, but it's very strong in certain matchups. Like, say against Nautilus, you throw out the pillar, it blocks the hook. Of course, you have the subjugate, which is good against single tank compositions, like HoH kind of has here. And then there's the Yumi tech, but it is going to be against the Vayne Lulu. The pillar, while helpful, isn't going to be that super strong counter tool that we typically see the Trundle support for. But at the same time, like, I kind of don't like the set either here in the bot lane, because if you have to run into polymorph range, well, good luck with that.
Yeah, for certain here, and then that is going to be the full draft completed here. Another thing to keep in mind, though, if it is Trundle support, a little bit of pillar synergy with the Graves as well. You can fire that Q on through if you time it well with the Trundle pillar. You can get the double detonate off a little bit faster than your opponents might expect. A little bit of a niche application there. But it could also be the set support, as we've referred to already. It really depends on what matchup they want to take up against that Gwen on the top side. The set has been pretty tried and true in that matchup, so that's is the way I'd expect the dice to roll on out here, but still to be determined once we get into the actual draft.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like we can throw out words and an analysis here left and right for days on end, but we kind of also have to see where the hell everybody is going here, Gordo. We like to keep track of where things are going, and it's usually mildly helpful, to say the least. That way, we aren't doing weird speculation that teams watching the VOD later might be like, why the frick were they thinking this? Either way, though, when we take a look at the compositions here, HoH, like, they're definitely set up for the hyperscaling here, Gordo, with the Shinzao as an early game buffer, because you have the Lulu with the double marksman composition, and you have that Gwen threat in the side lane who can scale up insanely well. So, Striking Vipers, they're definitely going to want to keep at least one of these marksmen down.
Yeah, for certain here. I'm curious to see when we do finally find out the way that these are going to be spread on out, but we have made it into the in-client draft. We are going to see the actual bans as the teams intended coming on across, and we are going to get final word on which champion Shaden's going to be taken up into that top lane. My money is fully and truly on that set. But then we're going to see these team comps actually clash here. A really strong counter pick in the bottom lane for HoH here. It feels like on paper they should really have the push. They should really have a lot of opportunity to be aggressive here and to maybe look for some kill pressure. But it's going to remain to be seen.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do the super technical argument, you can say, well, it remains to be seen about literally everything, because you don't really know how everything's going to shape up until you get into game. Either way, though, like you said, Striking Vipers definitely have a lot of tools to get ahead early. They have some very strong burst and fairly decent pick. They don't have the best, like, lockdown when it comes to just, like, getting on top of the backline, but a lot of these picks here for Striking Vipers, especially the Trundle, especially the set, whichever one of them happens to be the one that's support, will have very powerful flanks onto the HoH composition here. And it remains to be seen which one happens to be going into the lane/jungle and which one happens to be on that Targon's support.
Yeah, set has been locked in by Shaden in the incline draft. They do still have the opportunity to trade if they so choose, but feels more and more likely by the passing moment here, and that is a tried and true matchup up against that Gwen. Isn't really something that has kill pressure, isn't really something that's going to slam the lane per se, but is absolutely one that can survive it, one that isn't going to get bullied out too hard, one that can at least challenge for CS in the early game where he is kind of at his most powerful, and one that can set up for Graves very effectively as well, as they are really going to want to work to put that Gwen behind her early, take advantage of the nerfs that she's received a couple patches ago, and prevent her from scaling up into the later game, because once you get into those later stages of the game, that Gwen is still just as strong as she ever was.
Yeah, late game Gwen is like one of the most obnoxious things ever. Gwen is untargetable. Gwen is untargetable. Gwen is untargetable. Beautiful ability, by the way, right? Games, but I will hold the salt for later when we see that ability in action. Of course, there are also other factors like she has very strong. Yada yada yada. Either way, a lot of personal salt against Gwen. And Striking Vipers, they have a lot of potentially kind of weak lanes to focus here. There is the Vayne Lulu, which is, yes, kind of safe, but they don't have the direct healing, they don't have the direct dashes, so one pillar might just force out flashes here. If you want to in that bot lane, you will have push advantage in that bot lane. You can't look at the top lane. Okay, maybe mid lane might be a little bit hard here for Striking Vipers, but when you force Corki to use that Valkyrie, Gordo, that is more or less his entire mana bar depleted.
Yeah, it does cost a whole heaping much, but also want to keep an eye on One Hand One in this game, as this Graves jungle has really a lot on his shoulders, both in helping these weaker lanes navigate their way through that early game, and also as the real sole source of real AD damage coming through from the side of Striking Vipers. If this Graves gets set a little bit too far behind, it might just be all too easy to get some Merc treads across the team and to really just look to face roll on through the double mage composition that they're bringing to the table with this Victor and this Ziggs here. So also going to be a rough matchup up against the Xin Zhao. We talked about time and time again how powerful he really is in those early game duels. Going to be quite the task to be able to navigate your way in this jungle matchup.
Yep, of course, Graves can go decently toe to toe with the Shinzao, thanks to your quick draw giving you that extra dash, and of course the armor against, I mean, the physical damage bruiser in Shinzao. You do have that W, the smoke screen, which gives you that fairly strong slow, as well of course as that blind. So there are ways for Wonhan to be navigating this matchup, and he will be outscaling the Shinzao when it comes to that one-on-one. Of course, there are other issues like you pointed out with the double mage. Even though there isn't, oh lord, there isn't a pure tank on the enemy team. It's not like there's anyone aside from maybe Taigag in the jungle and maybe kind of Chunks in the top to stack some MR. You're not going to be seeing the turbo full MR builds that you might see in ARAM when you play, 5 control pages.
Certainly a good point to keep in mind there. With that said, we are going to throw to a quick break here while we get loaded on up onto the Rift for game number 1, but do not go anywhere. We are going to be right back with all of the Risen Divine League action as HoH Gaming takes on Striping and Vipers. Just a short minute.